Now, our next speaker is actually from much closer to home. We have the Deputy Mayor of London for Business and Enterprise, Kit Malthouse, who will be speaking on the platform now. We are very pleased to be just weeks away from one of the greatest shows on earth, the Olympics and the Paralympic Games, and in fact, this weekend, the Queen's Diamond Jubilee. London is, without any doubt, a huge draw for international tourism and hugely important for all of the United Kingdom in terms of putting the United Kingdom on the map. So we welcome Kit. Thank you very much for joining us and look forward to hearing from you. Please.
Well, thank you very much. For those of you who've read the programme and are observant, you will realise I'm not Boris Johnson. I have got a suit with a mayonnaise stain and a rip pocket, but I left it at home. As John has said, we are facing a summer like no other. It starts for me tomorrow when my mother-in-law flies in from Canada from the Jubilee. Anybody here from the Radisson in Portman Square? Don't fight back. In 56 short days, we will be firing the rockets at the opening ceremony of what is the greatest show on earth. And we're very conscious that there are some cities that have made a mess of it. Atlanta has never really recovered from its traffic chaos. There have been a number of notable problems with the Olympic Games, and we're determined this time to get it right. The Games, we think, will run smoothly. My previous job was policing. I'm pretty confident around security. The transport network, although we've had problems over the last couple of weeks, has had massive investment and we think should perform well when it comes to it. The Cultural Olympiad looks stimulating and interesting, and there's been a lot of work that's gone into look and feel. But look and feel is as much about what you do as it is about what we and what LOCOG and what the government do in the city. And just a small apocryphal story, it is possible to get that wrong. It used to be traditionally the case that the Conservative Party went every year for its conference to Brighton. And we stopped going. We haven't been back since the late 1980s. And people think the reason was because the Mayor of Brighton stood up at the opening session of conference and was rude about the Conservative government. And that was certainly the straw that broke the donkey's back. But the truth was that every time we showed up, they ramped the price of a gin and tonic to £2.60, which, don't forget, this is back in the 80s, which was about double what the normal price was. Members got fed up. They decided it wasn't worth going. They felt scalped. They weren't getting a good value proposition from the town. And so we stopped going. And they lost that massive boost to the local economy. And we need to make sure that, as well as look and feel, the people who come here are welcome and feel they are getting value from their visit. The last thing we need is Katie Couric on NBC or whoever it might be remarking upon how expensive the city is, how much she's had to pay for a salad in a restaurant. We need to make sure that people come and get a great impression of the city, look and feel in the public realm as well as the private realm. And we at City Hall are also very focused, though, on the hangover. John talked a little bit about short-term displacement, but also the idea that post the Games, particularly once the Olympic Games themselves finish in the middle of August, that we might see a sudden drop-off, that there will be a hangover, if you like, effect from people who sort of aren't coming to London because they think it's going to be terribly busy, be difficult to get around, it'll be hard work. And so we're engaging with the BHA and the industry through our promotional inward investment agency, London and Partners, to run key targeted marketing campaigns in particular markets to try and avoid that. We want to, as John said, give the impression that London is still open for business, people can still come, that we can cope with the extra numbers of the Games, and of course you were part of helping us with that. The fact that London had double the number of hotel rooms required for an Olympic host city at about 100,000 was a big driver in us winning the bid, so thank you for that. But making sure that we deal with the hangover is absolutely critical. And if we get those things right, then I think we will have a fantastic summer. But your industry and my job, the first ever Deputy Mayor for Business and Enterprise, is about much more than just this year. It's about the long-term growth of the city. And you're going to be having some discussions during the day about how you focus on that. And for me, I just thought there were three areas that I wanted to talk to you about a little bit, which I'll be focused on. The first is we need to make sure that we can get people here easily, quickly, and cheaply. The stories about Heathrow, the difficulties of getting into the UK, and in particular into London. Don't forget, only over 90% of people who come to the UK come to London, so it's absolutely vital for us as a gateway that we get it right. Those things are a massive deterrent. We need to sort out our visa system. We need to solve the Schengen problem. We need to make sure that London is the first destination in Europe that people come and that they use it as a base rather than other cities. We need to look at our airport in particular. Domestic travel is massively important, but international travel will be growing exponentially over the next decade, 2 decades, and we need to make sure that we have the basic infrastructure to get people into the country. As you know, Boris and I have been promoting the idea of a new airport to the east of London. It's a controversial idea. We don't think the third runway is necessarily a great solution for the long term. Having said that, we do think we need a Heathrow that works. And so investment in the current Heathrow is absolutely vital while we come to some kind of decision about what aviation capacity should look like in the southeast. The second challenge, I think, is keeping London interesting, safe, and vibrant. There are lots of cities in Europe that people can choose to go to, and they are all competing with us better and better. We have great culture, we've got heritage tapped, we're now adding sport. One of the legacies from the Olympics will be our ability to bid for those fantastic global sporting events for a much stronger base. But we need to make sure that London becomes more than just a long weekend destination for tourists or a fly-in, fly-out for business people. We want people to come here, spend time, spend money, and frankly to come again and again and again. It needs to be something that they do once a year, once every couple of years, a traditional thing, and that means the city, which is ever-changing if you live here, needs to be advertised as ever-changing as well. And finally, the third area, I think, pardon me, which is always a challenge for cities like ours, is the value proposition. What I said earlier, London is an expensive place to live. You know, I live just up the road here near Baker Street. It's extremely expensive. But for the new areas of the world that are coming on stream for tourism and travel, you know, emerging nations and emerging economies, the value proposition is absolutely critical. And making sure that they don't see London as a kind of Harrods-only destination where you go when you've finally saved up after 20 years, that it's somewhere you can come regularly, as I say, traditionally again and again, get value out of the city, enjoy its continuing changing and vibrancy is absolutely vital. And the key to getting those things right underpins a lot of what the city will do. Much of my job will be talking about science, about the digital economy, about financial services, but none of that happens unless you are there to feed people, water them, accommodate them, entertain them. None of the rest of it will happen. And we see other cities around the world that have particular sections of the market. So if you go to Frankfurt, they have this vast conference market, but not much else. Nobody really goes to Frankfurt for a long weekend. They go to the conference. The city centre is dead in the evening. I've been many times. But too many times the conference is there. But making sure that the critical bit of the infrastructure that brings all those people here to have a good time, are vibrant and doing well, is absolutely critical to me in my job. You are a massive industry, a huge job creator. Particularly important, you create a massive number of jobs for young people. We have a youth unemployment problem in the city. We're rolling out a huge apprenticeship program. I hope those of you who can will participate. It's a brilliant government scheme. We're getting about 1,000 apprentices a week now signing up. Good, young, willing people who want to work hard. And that generates revenue for all of us, and revenue for the economy, and revenue to pay for everything else. And you're a huge, as you heard earlier, contributor to that. So we see you as a key industry for London. You know, you're not talked about an awful lot, as John said. We talk about property, we talk about financial services, but nobody will come and do those things without all of you. So you will, I hope, be seeing more of me over the next 3 or 4 years. I should just finish by saying I have a personal interest in the industry. I started my working career washing up in a kitchen in a basement restaurant in Liverpool on Castle Street. When I was a teenager, in those days they didn't have any non-stick pans, so it was me and my Brillo pad. It was a Christmas, so I was there till 2 in the morning. And I always remember we had a very scouse chef called Jimmy, and the waiters would come in every morning and say, "Jimmy, what's the soup of the day?" And he would say the same thing every day. He'd say, "It's cream of yesterday." Well, hopefully in London, those days are over, and we'll welcome the world this summer, and they'll come back again and again in the summers following. Thank you very much.